Hello, everyone. This is Howard Fox, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series, the podcast that celebrates individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Our guest today is Mayan Gordon. Maayan founded Community Launchpad. She is a community building expert who specializes in helping entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and businesses create a thriving online community that drives engagement, loyalty, and revenue. I had the pleasure of meeting Maayan at a conference earlier in the year. I just loved her energy, and I thought, well, let's bring some of that to the Outdoor Adventure Series. Maayan, it's good to see you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing amazing. Thank you for having me here. And I think it's so cool that we can connect in person and then bring it online versus a lot of times it's the other way, right? Where you connect with someone online and then eventually get to meet them in person. So we did it in the reverse.
I love that. And Mike, we met at the Field Fest in Johnson City. God, it seems like such a long time ago. I think it was like end of June, early July. And Field Fest, for our listeners, is an event that was put on by the Outdoor Writers Association of America. And we were in Northeast Tennessee. Who knew that there was so much wonderful things you could do in Northeast Tennessee? And how was that event for you, by the way?
It was amazing. I mean, talk about great outdoors and experiences. So I got to go on my first whitewater rafting trip, which was really amazing, and got to go fly fishing for the first time. And believe it or not, I caught something like 29 trouts. Tiny little ones, but
I heard that.
Thrilling. It was absolutely thrilling.
So in the spirit of disclosure to you, I think I might have shared this with the audience at some point. I joke about a lot of things, and some of it's Howard's inside joke, but I will always tell people I've never been fishing in my life. Now, I know for a fact I caught a bluegill off of a pier in a little small lake up in Michigan where I grew up. However, I've never been, quote unquote, officially fishing. And so I went out with a couple peers, and one of the events I caught my first brown trout and a couple of rainbow trout, 3, but I nowhere as monumental as your achievement as well.
You know, I have to give all the credit to the guides, right? Like they tied the flies and did really everything except casting, and it was a good day.
Yeah, and I have two new words in my vocabulary: casting and mending.
Yes.
So you also presented at the event, and was the idea of community kind of percolating for you? Because you've been very successful in the online space, and you were sharing with the audience there about the importance of online, the importance of figuring out the right medium, which online source, whether it's LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I know you use TikTok. I shiver when I hear about TikTok. Okay. However, was the idea of building a community, was it on the horizon for you, or how has that evolved? Because I can see the need for community in the outdoor space.
Yeah, so really actually this was right before it had crystallized in a, let's say, conscious manner. So it must have been percolating in my subconscious, I think, for probably a really, really long time, for many, many years. But at that point, I hadn't really figured out, okay, community building is absolutely going to be the thing that I want to do for hopefully the rest of my life, and that combines all of the elements that I've built as really good skills in other parts of my career as an entrepreneur and in the marketing space, and being able to take all of those elements and package them in a way that brings the most value to the people that I work with. So this was right before that all became more crystal clear. And I guess a lot of times people think about these transitions that we go through as there being one moment where it all clicked. And it really wasn't like that. It was more just as I started to think about the concept of community more and more and start to work in it, the more it became clear. So it wasn't this thing that just happened overnight and I all of a sudden woke up because I had a dream and interpreted the dream and said I should be doing community building. It was really something that started more as a notion, and then I followed that notion and took action. And the more I worked in the space of community, the more I talked about community with other people, the more that's how it became clear that that was what I wanted to be doing.
Okay, very good. Now, the idea of community, it fascinates me because there are communities outside, groups of people who get together for a common purpose. And it was dawning on me as I have been, I would say, niching down in the outdoor podcast. I mean, I do a lot of episodes for an OWAA member if they want to come on and do an episode with me. I'm all in because I want to support them. They're my peers in the organization. But we've also, my partner and I have been niching down in the destination marketing, economic development, chamber of commerce, convention and visitor bureau market. And it dawned on me that, for example, Johnson City in the Field Fest was interesting because the folks that organized it, Alec Castro from Visit Johnson City, and we had Bristol, we had Greene County, we had Unicoi County. I know I'm missing a couple. And it dawned on me that they have a community which they brought together for the help basically deliver this event for our members. And I was thinking about it is that we could be building a community of destinations, a community of convention visitor bureaus to really take this idea that, oh, we're all members of an organization, but make it even more powerful. And that's why I love the fact that you're here today, because I'd love to get your perspective on building a community, not just for the entrepreneur or the business, but also the organization, like an outdoor convention and visitor bureau, a destination marketing organization. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I think first of all, it's a really great point because the word community is very like, what does it mean, right? It can mean
Mhm.
a lot of very different things. And when I talk about community building, a lot of what I'm talking about is creating structure for things that either already exist and being able to empower them more, or building structure for things that have the potential to exist and kind of the elements and the raw ingredients are there. So when you talk about like the amazing community that it clearly exists in this Tennessee area, right? Where all these different organizations and individuals, right? We had individual guides and individual presenters kind of all come together to make an event happen. They didn't just do that for pure opportunity, right? Like they did it because they felt an existing bond between different relationships that already existed. And so for organizations, whether they're any of the travel and tourism organizations that you listed or like the small businesses within those destinations, right? I think those are important parts of the community of especially a location, right? Are
Mm.
what are the restaurants that are there? What are the historical buildings and who is taking care of those buildings or helping them to be renovated or whatever's going on with them? And there's already communication there. There's already relationships that exist. But to your point, I think the event itself, right, brought people together to work together in a very specific way. So the event in this case was a community structure, or at least
Mhm.
part of a structured component of community that allowed people to take more action and kind of activate the sense of community and the culture of community better. And so I think it's really important and advantageous for any organization to think about what are the existing relationships that we already have, and can we create some type of structure that fosters those relationships even further, empowers people to work together and to take action because it's good for the organization and it's really good for the people in the organization. We feel like going to that event felt amazing, right? Like I got to
Mhm.
bond with all these different people. I got to have shared experiences with them. I got to exchange ideas and learn from all these different people. And that is something that makes life wonderful. I think no one really wants to work at their desk all day, not talking to anyone and not getting up and having shared experiences.
Sure.
So, community at thinking about it as a structure that empowers relationships and empowers individuals that also benefits an organization is how I think about that.
Okay. What has been, you shared a little bit about, or we shared too, about the experience in Johnson City, but where have you really experienced this community in the outdoor space, say beyond what we experience in Tennessee? And because I think for our listeners and for me, I need to kind of hear things, and my brain is wired to make connections, and I
Yes.
think I'm getting it, and I see opportunity. But I mean, you take these ideas and are now knitting them together, so you've got something you can offer. So I'm curious how you have experienced this community, especially if it has happened, say, in the outdoor space, or maybe there's another community you can speak to.
Yeah, I mean, I'll speak specifically to outdoors. So I'll first say I love, love, love the outdoors. I do a lot of stuff with just me and my husband. I'm not an active participant in things that I would, let's say, like to be like. I think one of the types of communities that exists, and this is accessible through like meetup.com or different Facebook groups, are people will self-organize these like hiking groups together,
Right.
right? So I'm not a part of one of those, but I would totally like to be a part of one of those. Or there's people who have a regular kind of sport or outdoor activity like mountain biking, right? And they'll go to a particular mountain biking park and like they know all the other people who kind of go there, and that forms a community. So I'm less consistent in my outdoor adventures at just this point in my life. I've got a lot going on in my business and moved to Birmingham, Alabama just 2 years ago, so don't have as established just friendship network over here. And so I'm gonna bring it all the way back to a, I would say, key experience that made me fall in love with the outdoor space. And this was through I would say, a community structure in a way that most people might not think about community. So I was in high school in Seattle, Washington, and the high school that I went to, called Lakeside School, they required that every student to be able to graduate would go on what they called an outdoor trip. And these outdoor trips, there were kind of two options. You could take either a shorter trip that would be somewhere from 1 to 3 weeks and would be anything from backpacking to river rafting, where you're bringing like your camping gear on the rafts and like camping on the side of the river over the course of a week, to mountain climbing. But then there was the option to do longer trips that were 1 or 2 months. And those were usually in other countries. And you
Mm.
might be doing things like helping to dig a well in some part of South America, or other, they were often service focused as well. So I chose to go on a Canyonlands backpacking trip in Canyonlands, Utah.
No.
And I I had previously been on one other backpacking trip up Goat Mountain, which I'm pretty sure is in Washington State. And that was a two or 3 day, I think it was a 2 night, 3 day backpacking trip up a very, very steep mountain. So this was, I had boots that were like sort of broken in. We were all beginner hikers, more or less, and backpackers on this trip. And we all got like terrible blisters, right? Like on the first day, and like suffered together and like bonded till we got to the top and we're at this beautiful meadow with a lake. And, that first experience, even though it was really challenging, I really connected with how challenge in an outdoor setting, especially, just bonds people together in this special way that I
Mm.
think there's really nothing else. Like, I've been through lots of challenges and lots of situations. To do it outdoors, where there's no access to any sort of help, right? There's no internet. There was at the time no cell phone coverage. It was something really, really special. You really had to rely on each other and develop new skills, not just practical skills, but like mental and emotional skills. So I really enjoyed that experience, and then signed up for the 2 week backpacking trip in Canyonlands. And it was with 10 to 12 other people, kids who went to my high school, only one of which I knew at all and not super well. And we went out into this dry area that was absolutely beautiful, but really had to rely on each other to get through and survive and work together. And at the end of that trip, we were a very close community, right? And that
Mhm.
community maybe only existed in a very specific context, but we all took that experience of that community with us forward into really the rest of our lives. And I think when I think about outdoor communities, trying to create that dynamic of that like lifelong bonding that we can create very quickly from outdoor experiences is super powerful, especially if you then have mechanisms as an organization to be able to leverage that bond into more activities, experiences, whatever the goals of your organization are. And I would say that's true of what I've experienced in the outdoor industry, like the tourism
Mhm.
and travel industry in general. Is I go to conferences in all sorts of different industries, the Amazon seller space, social media and marketing, general business. I've been to like one technology event, and at all of them, you're doing networking, you're connecting with people,
Mhm.
you're building relationships, but it's not the same level as in the outdoor industry. And part of that is because most of these events, right, these, especially the travel writers or other outdoor events, you're doing things together. You're going on excursions, you're, having meals together. And so I think the types of activities that a community facilitates is really important. So to kind of give an example, people sometimes talk about their social media following as like my community,
Right.
right? So what's the difference between that, which uh, I won't get into an argument as to whether that's a community or not in the context of how I view community. That's a following. It's a lot of individual relationships. It's great. I'm not trying to diminish it in any way. But to me, when I think about community, there has to be some level of group activity. And so
Mhm.
to me, the minimum of that is having a group Zoom call, right? That's an activity. Hopefully and when I say group Zoom call, I mean activity as in other people are participating. So they have to have the opportunity to join discussion or ask questions. If it's a webinar, to me, that's not a community event. It's an educational piece, which can be a larger part of a community structure. But community is really about doing things together. And the outdoor industry, you're doing a lot more things together than a lot of other industries where what are you doing together? You could argue, okay, we're listening to someone speak together.
Mhm.
That's not really doing something together, right? Like if you're at a conference and you're listening to a panel or a speaker. I would say networking, right? Having conversations, that's kind of doing something together.
Mhm.
But it's not the same as when you're ziplining together or like all the cool stuff we got to do in the outdoor industry.
Yeah. And as you were sharing that, I kept thinking about the meetup groups. And I mean, some of my best friends that I have made, I'd say in the last 10 to 15 years have been because of meetup. A love of cooking is really what it boiled down to. And we every week we would be cooking together, have a potlucks. And now that we're all in the four corners of the globe, we still stay in touch. But
Yeah.
um, I think still there's got to be a way to come together to have the shared activity, shared enjoyment. And what's been going through my mind, especially with the destination marketing organizations, convention visitor bureaus, is if there was a common place for them. First off, they're going to be meeting with each other, perhaps regionally, because there's a project to do. Okay.
Right.
Or they're going to go to a Northeast Association of destination marketing organizations. Okay. So they're going to come together, they're going to hear speakers, maybe they're going to go on an excursion, but they're going to come back and then they're going to be business as usual. And where
Yeah.
I think there's an opportunity, though, Mayan, is how do we bring them together locally? Like all these destinations that you and I met when we were in Tennessee, they all, for example, shared fishing as a common activity people could embark on. And I would think that part of this community is one, let's us all know we have a gathering place. So let's plan a group activity out to that body of water where you caught your 21 some trout, which I'm still very envious of. Or let's go on this hike. Let's go play disc golf at the various mountain courses that are available. So people could kind of talk about it within the structure of a community, an online community, but then plan an event like, hey, we're going to be at this mountain on this Saturday. We're going to be at this mountain on Wednesday afternoon or something like that. And so I my sense is there's something there because I want them to come to me for podcasting. All right. But I
Yeah.
also think there's a way for that with your skills, my skills, we can bring folks together and say, hey, come on and talk about these types of events. And so that then makes this whole region exciting to anybody that is considering visiting or even moving to those locations.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things you're getting at is I think organizations sometimes have a hard time understanding how community fits into their existing directives and duties and roles, right? So I'll give an example. Someone who is in charge of marketing might think, I want to go do fun stuff, but I have to focus on coming up with the marketing strategy. And I think those two things can be really combined together, where, let's say, in the context of the online portion of a community, part of what it means to be a member of, let's say, this shared outdoor organization community is that
Mhm.
different organizations are sharing into some group online format, whether that's a content library or a chat. Here's what I'm working on,
Mhm.
right? And then giving each other either direct feedback or, right, sometimes you read what someone else is doing and you don't have to think, it just an idea pops in your head. That's the
Mhm.
best, right? And
Mhm.
so I think if people can contribute information online when they're not together, that then when they come together, their brain is preceded with all of this incredible information. And through the context of not only being able to have direct conversation, but the added benefit of like the neurochemicals that your brain produces when you're together, we become smarter and more creative
Mhm.
when we're physically together, because our feelings and the physiology of those feelings activates our brains in totally different ways. And so I think instead of trying to separate marketing from community, realizing community can be a vehicle for helping your marketing by leveraging other people's ideas, their feedback, collaboration, and that through these trips, kind of like how businesses will often have these leadership retreats,
Mhm.
right? Or these other organizational retreats where they get everyone together for like 2 days, somewhere amazing and beautiful. Why are they doing that? Because getting people together in that context helps produce incredible ideas and results and progress. And so why wouldn't outdoor organizations want to do that in collaboration with the other organizations that have different specific goals, but generally everyone's got a shared goal in
Mhm.
the outdoor industry, which is really, I think, a special thing that, again, you don't see in all industries.
Yeah, and I really think there's something there that they see the old saying, seeing the forest through the tree. They
Yeah.
see the tree because this is my job, this is what I have to
Yes.
produce, but they're not yet. Some of them are starting to make a greater connection of if we open up and bring people together to talk about our common passions, and you listed it, and I'm thinking, really, like, especially like for chambers of commerce, like my partner and I produce Boulder City Chamber of Commerce's podcast. Little plug, the best damn podcast.
Oh, that's such a good name.
It's the perfect name for Boulder City, and you've got history, you've got renovation, you've got outdoor activities, you've got some decent restaurants, and you have history. There is a way to bring others regionally, so like in Southern Nevada, or even statewide, bring people together who are sharing these common elements or interests and have a place that they can visit, learn more about, have conversations, ask questions, but then also plan events, which it not only helps the location, like a Boulder City or a Carson City or Reno, but it also helps bring in others who want to come into Nevada and for a vacation, and they don't want to go just to the Strip. Okay. Uh,
Yeah.
for the folks out there, there's a lot more to Nevada and Las Vegas than the Las Vegas Strip. I just think there's some opportunities, and that's why I love this idea of this kind of creating this community that it benefits everybody. It truly benefits everybody. What are they, as you're building this community launch pad, what are your ideal clients? What are they looking for? Or what are you offering to them that makes this a compelling argument? Yeah, I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, so I would say the main thing that makes someone an ideal client is that the work that they're doing is their passion,
Mhm.
right? And this isn't just something that they're doing. Hopefully everyone's making great money at their jobs. I truly, truly hope that. But they're not doing it right just for the money. It's something that even if they weren't getting paid a lot, they're gonna find a way to do it anyways. They're just called to do the work that they're doing. And the reason that that makes an ideal client is because community building is something that requires energy and
Mhm.
effort. And it really is going to help you connect with other people who share that same purpose, goal, passion. And so if
Mhm.
someone's not super passionate about what they're doing, even if it's right, it's a great job. They maybe they still love their job, but it's not what they want to do long term or forever. They're thinking about other things they want to transition into. That's
Mhm.
not going to be super a powerful force to bring other people in to connect and collaborate, right? Like we're very, very sensitive as human beings to
Mhm.
other people's energy, to the directions that people are moving in. And so someone who's moving or at least wants to move in a very clear direction of I love this thing, I want to be in it, that's ideal for community building. I would
Mhm.
say the other thing that's really helpful is that they want to create a system or ecosystem or environment around that thing and that they have a desire to be a leader in the space, right? And there's a million different types of leadership. There's different places we all start, but they have that desire to
Mhm.
bring other people in and help support other people. And in terms of the way that I offer support or value to those types of people is it's really a number of different ways. I would say it always starts with clarity. Right?
Mhm.
It's like very confusing when you have I think this is true of being a human. When you have a real passion, it's very confusing what you're supposed to do with that because it's such a big, all-encompassing feeling to say, "Okay, what is the first step? How do I move in any direction?" It feels like my whole world is this thing. Where do I go from here? And so I'm really, really good at working with people to distill a lot of the ingredients and components of like why are they so passionate about it? What are the particular parts of the outdoors that they love the most? What things
Mhm.
do they really not like? So just
Mhm.
getting a lot of clarity and then from that clarity building structure, right? And not just building structure based on something that supports them, but really focusing on how is this going to benefit and engage other people that you're going to be working with.
Mhm.
And I guess a good way to think about it in a less complex way is what is it that makes human beings so special and different from all other creatures is our ability to speak and communicate, right?
Mhm.
And what is the power that comes from speaking and communicating is collaboration.
Mhm.
The entire world that we've built is built on collaboration. You can't build a building without help from other people, whether that's manufacturers who are making products that you're using in your building materials to contractors to people with different skills and trades. Generally, you can't build any business without other people and people. What about a solopreneur? Well, they're still using the efforts and work of people who built the software technology for their website, right? Like literally none of us could possibly exist without the collaboration of other people. And so community is really just a tool to foster more collaboration.
Okay. Now, I will probably step in it a little bit right now, but how does the work that you're doing with building and communities or helping your clients build communities, how do we prevent it from going down the path of a Facebook, an Instagram, an X, places where perhaps the respect for others is somewhat diminished in a way? I think I'm being
Yeah.
nice about
No,
this,
you're yeah,
diplomatic.
you're being very clear and
So
nice about it.
so
Yes.
how do you prevent, or what are the steps that can be baked into this process of building a community that also protects us against folks that have ulterior motives and agendas?
Yeah. So from my side, that's where I do a lot of vetting and generally make sure that I'm not taking on clients that are more money focused than they are passion focused.
Mhm.
Now, at the same time, something that might sound like in opposition to that, but is really complementary is I make sure that one of the core things we're figuring out is what is the financial engine that makes building this community sustainable. Because I think sometimes where what you're describing comes from is people work so hard in something, get so drained, and there's not money coming in where then they start to feel a little desperate. And
Mhm.
when human beings are desperate, we make terrible, terrible decisions that generally don't align with actually who we are or the direction that we want to go. But if we make those decisions often enough, then it becomes normal to us. And then we start to forget the original direction that we wanted to go in and we're so passionate about.
Mhm.
So for me, I'm very careful to have lots of conversations and really ask good questions about why people want to build community and how they can see it growing in years from now. I think on the general culture side of it, one of the things I try and talk about with people, but I don't think there's so first of all, I don't think there's any 100% preventing it. It's like human nature to sometimes to do what you're describing. But I think in general, the more we can talk about in this age of technology, leveraging automation or technology so that we get either increased financial capacity or time to put back into human connection and back into the more manual side of it instead of saying, I'm going to automate as much of community as I can so I can have the most free time possible. Saying, you know what, I want a certain amount of free time. It's like very, very normal. I want to go travel, but I'm going to take some of that extra capacity, whether it's again financial or time, to hire people who are more actively involved in the community, right? So instead
Mhm.
of saying like one example of I think the direction that you're talking about that I also would like to prevent is I don't think anyone wants to be in a world where all the communities are run by chatbots, right? Like
Mhm.
that doesn't sound super great. Like I have ChatGPT, that's fine, but I don't want my community to be all like automated chatbots. I want to talk to real people, right?
Right.
And so keeping that in mind that as you scale a community, this is one of the big challenges. How do you keep the personal touch when you have 500 or 1,000 or 10,000 members? Don't I have to automate it? Don't I have to substitute people for, or substitute technology for the human interaction? And I
Mhm.
think the answer is no. We have to be intentional and we have to be thoughtful about how the community is scaling with some type of economic or sustainable features that allow for that humanness to remain within it and see that as a huge, huge accomplishment that it is better for me to have a community that's maybe slightly less profitable, but is providing incredible jobs for a bunch of people and creating a much better experience for the members than to say, I've got a community of 10,000 people and I'm making a ton of money from it, but like the members aren't getting a ton of value from it. And you're not providing any amazing jobs for the people in that community. So I think
Mm.
it all depends on the way in which we look at it, but holding on to our humanity, I think is active choice that we have to make.
Very good. Very good. Mayan, before we head out, I would love if you perhaps share with our audience what I call the aha moment is when you've had a lot of variety of experiences, the outdoor experiences, going on the hikes and up the cliffs, now to standing in front of audiences and presenting, facilitating, being guest on podcasts. What's been your aha moment as you kind of have been tracking the trajectory of your career, your experiences? And I know there's an experience coming up shortly. We don't have to chat about that,
Yeah.
but congratulations.
Thank you.
But what
Thank
has
you.
been your aha moments thus far?
Yeah, and this is one of many aha moments, but a really big one that kind of shifted my whole career and life was in my third business that I built, which was a glass blowing business. So we were
Mhm.
making glass art pieces and smoking accessories. And I was posting a lot of product pictures, right? Like a lot of my Instagram feed was just like, look at this pretty glass piece and this pretty glass piece. But it was really stressful at a certain point in my business. And as a form of just like self-therapy, I started doing Instagram stories, sharing like, here's a struggle and challenge I'm having, but here's the good attitude I have about it, trying to convince myself of the good attitude, right? Like whether I deeply felt it or not. And I really wasn't thinking about that content contributing to other people or driving sales in any way. I just needed to like talk about it.
Mhm.
And the aha moment was when I don't know if this was the first message or exactly when this happened, but someone sent me a message saying, "Hey, thank you so much for sharing that video about what you were going through because I'm going through something really, really challenging." And I started getting more and more of these messages, anything from I finally got up the courage to tell my friend to stop using heroin, to my grandmother died and I've been really, really sad and depressed. And then your video helped me to like have a different mindset to get through it. And that was a huge, huge shift for me when I realized that business was more than about product or service. It was about people. And from that point forward, like there's nothing that feels that amazing as to like really give someone that level of value. And so I started thinking, how do I focus my business efforts on creating that? And I think that was the spark that led me now to what I'm doing, which is about community building and saying, okay, how do we leverage all the work that we're doing, and especially in business,
Mhm.
to help improve people's lives in a really dramatic and profound way?
Very good. I totally appreciate that. And a lot of what you said, it resonates is because when I'm not podcasting, I'm a coach, leadership development, career development. It's not always about promotion, money, next opportunity. Some of it is about happiness and how do I stay motivated and really to love the work that I do because I want to do it for the next 15, 20 years. Okay.
Yeah,
Let's talk about that. And really being able to make a difference in what you're producing, that helps us. That gives us the energy to keep going and keep doing what we're doing. Any final thoughts that you could share with our audience? We call this the insight to go. So it could be a quote, a book, Maayan's 10 rules for healthy living. What's your insight to go for our audience?
yeah. I'll share one of my favorite quotes, which is actually from Rabbi Hillel,
Okay.
and a lot of people might be familiar with it. It's, "If I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I am only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when?" And to me, that just like encompasses the entire feels of the work that I do. And I think the struggle of being human, of like, I have to be for myself, but if I'm only for myself, what kind of life is that? And if I don't start doing it now, someday I'm gonna
Mm,
die, right? Hopefully far, far in the future. So
right.
I think being a human's really hard. It's a bunch of contradictions and complexities. And that's why we need to do life together.
I love it. Well, thank you very much for that, the aha moment and the insight to go. Now, if our listeners would like to connect with you, learn a little bit more about you and your work right now, where's the best place to go?
Yeah, right now, LinkedIn in my LinkedIn profile, and just sending me a connection request, sending me a direct message is the perfect way to get in touch.
Fantastic. Well, Mayan, I really appreciate you taking time out of your, I know it's probably a busy day, and it's hard to believe the year is end of the year is fast approaching. It's going to be a whole new year and new adventures and exciting times. And really want to thank you for joining us as we kind of get to the station for the end of the year. And it's been great to catch up with you again, virtually this time, but hopefully we'll see each
Absolutely.
other in person again in
Yes,
the not too
absolutely.
distant
Thank you so
future.
much for having me.
All right. Listen, stay in the line. We're going to do a real quick close and you and I can have a final chat. Okay. All right, folks, we have just been chatting with my friend Mayan Gordon. She is the founder of Community Launchpad. I met Mayan when she was presenting and taking part in the many activities at Field Fest earlier this year, the event by the Outdoor Writers Association of America, and it was actually facilitated by the folks out in Northeast Tennessee, Visit Johnson City, and their partners. And Maya is the fishing champion, by the way. Everybody was quite envious of like, this is her first time fishing. Like, wow. But look, we really enjoyed the conversation today. And this idea of building community, especially amongst folks who are in the outdoor space, whether you're a business, a convention and visitor bureau, a destination marketing organization. The idea of building community, I think, has a lot of potential. So I think we got a lot of great insights from Maayan today. Now, we're going to provide a backlink to her LinkedIn URL so that you can connect with her. As a LinkedIn coach myself, please let her know why you'd like to connect. Don't just click the connect button, okay? And as for us, this episode will be up on our website, outdooradventureseries.com, most likely in the new year, definitely in January. You can also find the episode on our Facebook and LinkedIn pages. Just search for Outdoor Adventure Series. The episode will be on YouTube and, of course, the directories wherever you listen to your podcast. Okay, folks, go out there, have a phenomenal day. By the time, again, this episode goes live, it'll be the new year, so I hope you had a fantastic holiday season and are ready for a wonderful 2025. Until next time, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, take care of yourselves, and we look forward to having you on another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast.